So, can a devout Catholic also be a committed capitalist? It's a huge question, right? It kind of pits faith against finance, community against competition. Today, we're going to unpack the Catholic Church's surprisingly deep and nuanced answer to this whole thing. I mean, at first glance, they seem like a really unlikely pair. On one hand, you've got capitalism, a system we often associate with profit, self-interest, and competition. And on the other, you have Catholicism, a faith that's all about charity, community, and looking out for the poor. So how on earth can these two worlds possibly fit together? Okay, first things first, let's get our terms straight. When the church talks about capitalism, it's usually talking about what it calls a market economy. And you got to notice the focus in their own definition here. It's not about greed, it's about business, the market, private property, and, this is the really cool part, free human creativity. All right, let's just get right to the heart of it. Can a Catholic be a capitalist? The Church's answer is a definite but qualified yes. And trust me, that word qualified is everything. This isn't a blank check. It's more like an endorsement that comes with some really important terms and conditions. To really get why that yes has strings attached, it helps to look at what the Church gives a hard no to. The language is pretty telling. While a market economy is seen as a tool that's not to be condemned in itself, the view on socialism is, well, way more direct. Pope Pius XI said you can't be a good Catholic and a true socialist. The difference is just night and day. And it's because the Church sees socialism's core ideas as being totally at odds with its teachings on human dignity and the right to own property. So, what's the crucial condition? What's the fine print? Here it is. The Church's yes to the market completely flips to a certainly negative if that economic freedom isn't guided by a strong moral and legal structure. In other words, the market can't be a free-for-all, like the Wild West. It needs rules, and those rules have to be rooted in ethics and a deep, profound respect for every single person. And this brings us right to the core of the issue. The market is this incredibly powerful, double-edged sword. It has the potential for so much good, but at the same time, it can cause some serious harm. So let's take a look at both sides of that blade. Okay, on the positive side, the Church absolutely recognizes the market's incredible power. I mean, it generates massive wealth and has played a huge role in lifting millions of people out of extreme poverty around the globe. It's super efficient at meeting human needs, by encouraging people to create things and provide services for each other. And, this is pretty interesting, it creates the very prosperity that allows for large-scale charity. It also says that profit, when it's earned the right way, is a totally legitimate thing. In fact, the view of business can be incredibly positive. It's not just something to be tolerated, it can actually be a noble vocation. Just think about that for a second. When a business is truly focused on creating wealth that serves everybody and genuinely makes the world a better place, that's considered a high calling. But, and this is a big but, that same powerful engine has a really dark side. When you just let it run wild, an unchecked market can lead to awful exploitation. It can foster this culture of just buying more and more stuff, what we call consumerism. Without a moral compass, it becomes a vacuum where people end up serving the goal of profit instead of profit serving people. And this really gets to the absolute heart of the critique. See, the problem isn't the market itself. It's a very human vice, greed. The Church gives this stark warning that when greed presides over the entire socioeconomic system, it ruins society. It's not just about one person's failing, it's about a poison that can infect the whole system. The key insight here is that capitalism is just a tool. The real danger isn't the tool, but the morality of the person who's wielding it. So, if the market is this powerful but pretty dangerous tool, how are you supposed to use it correctly? Well, the Church actually proposes a clear framework for harnessing all that power while protecting us from its dangers. It's basically a three-step approach. First, it flat-out rejects systems it sees as fundamentally incompatible with its beliefs, like socialism. Second, it endorses that market model we talked about earlier, the one based on business, property, and creativity. But third, and this is the absolute deal-breaker, it insists that this model must be guided by and infused with core moral principles. Now, it's really important to get this. The Church doesn't see its job as drawing up some specific economic blueprint. It's not trying to be an economist or a politician. Instead, it offers what it calls an indispensable and ideal orientation. Think of it like a moral compass to guide the actual experts who are building the economy. And what does that compass point to? Well, these are the core principles. Any economic system, if it wants to be considered just, has to uphold the dignity of every worker. It has to recognize that the economy is a social thing, not just about individuals. It has to pursue social justice, serve the common good for everyone, and always give a preferential option for the poor, which just means their needs have to be a top priority.
Okay, so we've got the definitions, we've got the framework, but why does any of this actually matter in the real world? Because from a Catholic perspective, this is not just some academic economic debate. It's about something way, way more fundamental. It matters because faith isn't meant to be a passive thing. It demands action. At the very heart of the Christian message are those two great commandments: love God and love your neighbor. And how you set up your economy, how you treat your employees, how you care for the poor, all of that is seen as a direct, practical way you either succeed or fail at loving your neighbor.
And this matters for all of society too. St. Augustine had this beautiful definition of peace. He called it the tranquility of order. A just economic order where people are treated with dignity and fairness isn't just a nice idea. It's seen as a fundamental building block for a truly peaceful and stable society. Without it, you can't have that tranquility. And so we end with this question, which is really the one the church is asking all of us to think about. The point isn't about choosing between capitalism and something else. It's about how we shape the system that we have. So is our economy ultimately built to serve the dignity of every single person, or is it built for profit alone? The answer to that question, well, it changes everything.